Welcome back, listeners. Today we are dropping another episode from our series called The Tutelage of Treehouse. The team at Treehouse is on a mission to diversify the tech industry through accessible education, unlocking opportunity, and empowering people to achieve. In our series, we will be talking to leaders and students in the program to learn about how Treehouse has impacted their lives, businesses, and careers. Well, today I have Daniel McElroy on the Code Story podcast. Daniel, thank you for being on the show today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Before we go too far and get into the West Virginia Coding Club, tell me and my audience a little more about you.
I am the 15th of 16 children. So I grew up in a very large, tumultuous family in Rhode Island. My goal as a young man was to play for the Boston Red Sox. However, that did not work out. But it did get me into college. While I was in college, I was volunteering at a juvenile detention home down the street. They actually offered me, when I graduated from college, they offered me a job. I took it. And I quickly found out they forgot to tell me that they could not keep a teacher more than 3 months. I found out that a lot of these kids had really poor reading skills. So I had a chance to really work with these kids. I went and got a master's degree in developmental reading. And then, lo and behold, I was invited to learn some improvisational theater technique at the American Shakespeare Theater in Stratford, Avon in Connecticut. I was learning these improv techniques. I only worked there doing that on the weekends, and it paid good money. And I took what I learned from there, and I thought, I'm going to invent a board game, a theater board game, and I'll have a bunch of cards with a bunch of improvisational skits that players would have to go through and so forth. And I began to sell it, market it, mail order to high school drama teachers. That was my market. From there, I went to Kentucky, and I was a program director at a mental health, mental retardation community center. I started getting work projects for them. They started earning a little bit of money, and that was an amazing thing to watch because everybody's proud when you make a dollar. So then I went from there to Texas and became an assistant deputy commissioner. Had responsibility for like 11 community mental health centers in eastern Texas. And I grew to pretty much dislike it because I wasn't really working with people. I was just a bureaucrat. So along the way, I got an MBA, took classes during the night in school. And so I was offered a job teaching school. And so I started working with kids who were 2-3 grades behind in their reading development and so on. So I used a real clinical approach to the teaching of reading, with developing step-by-step, going through phonics. So then I took a job at a middle school, basically, again, teaching kids who were behind, who had given up, who hated school. I got to the point where there was a lot of bad news. West Virginia has suffered through a lot of negative stereotypes. And, I talked to a lot of kids, and they said, Mr. McElroy, I don't want to leave the state. My family is here, but, I love this place. And so I began to think, what's the future for these kids? We live in this tech-dominated world. Those are the skills that they should be learning. The fact that we have thousands and thousands of tech jobs open, and that's what led me to look around, and I started looking at various online learning programs, and I found Treehouse. I tried getting it going within the school system at that time. I began to have to deal with bureaucratic issues, and I didn't have the patience for that. So I stepped out of the school system and formed a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, called the West Virginia Coding Club. I solicited some funding, had the program up and running in August of 2016.
Okay, so Daniel, tell me about the West Virginia Coding Club. You gave me the inception story, but tell me more about the mission and how you are supporting the students in the club?
Our mission is to open it up to every middle and high school student in the state of West Virginia. And our vision is to give students the skills and confidence and opportunity to change their world. You know, like a lot of people, I agree that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. So I wanted to use the West Virginia Coding Club as an opportunity for these kids to learn coding skills, work through the program, belong to a group. And a lot of them, the parents would drive these kids from 50 miles away to come to these coding classes. Now, I want to scale the program up. The only way it's going to transform the state and to turn out as many students with the ability to join tech companies, maybe become remote workers. And Treehouse is the only online learning company where you can progress from the fundamentals all the way through to an advanced tech degree. If you look at the research, 99% of the people who get these advanced tech degrees through Treehouse are adults. And I wanted to prove that we can do the same thing with much younger students. I have 3 kids, all achieved advanced tech degrees at the age of 15.
With Treehouse, you mentioned, you have this system where you can encourage the kids, you can message them. Tell me a little bit more about what stood out for Treehouse, over the slew of content that's out there.
A lot of the other ones I saw were more data, but I like the visual content. Their videos are top-notch. I like also that there's a worldwide support system. And one of the big eye-openers in one of our coding meetings was we said, hey, okay, Treehouse says they have this worldwide community, and so let's try it. You can go to their community board and you can say, hey, I'm having a problem with this. I just can't, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And we got an answer in like 4 minutes from some guy in Czechoslovakia. The kids were just blown away by that. So they're part of a worldwide support system. It really works.
That's interesting because I want to know, it seems like the kids were pretty excited about how the global community and how the community supported each other. What other sort of feedback are you getting from the kids about Treehouse?
Well, if you talk to these 3 15-year-olds, it's been life-changing. I've got a young man who's now going off to college, and he said, I don't know what I would have done without this program. And we've had 4 young men who graduated from West Virginia University in computer science. They all said they wish they had had this program when they were in middle school and high school. One is out in Seattle with Microsoft, another is at Google in Pittsburgh, I think, and the other 2 at Amazon. One's in Nashville and one's in Northern Virginia. And they said, you know what? We would love to come home. We would love to work in West Virginia doing what we're doing now. And I think with remote learning now exploding and whatnot, I think maybe in the future that's going to be possible. But my vision, again, is going to try to persuade as many middle school and high schools in the state. And there's like 239 high schools, and there's at least that and more middle schools. I want them to adopt the Treehouse program because they don't need a computer science teacher. We would be a support for them and help them in any way. I want to get to the point where use it as an elective, say in the 7th grade in middle school, let the kids go through 7th, 8th, 9th grade, go into high school. And I'd like to turn out, 100 plus advanced degree kids coming out of high school, and that would transform the state.
Well, for anyone who was considering, all of the learning materials out there, and they came to you and said, why Treehouse? What would you tell them about Treehouse?
First thing I would do is say, okay, go on Treehouse and read, go down to their blog and read, click on success stories. And there are tons of photos and stories of kids or young people from all walks of life who had gone on to college, who had majored in things that, they can't really make a good living at now. They're in dead-end jobs, and there are a lot of kids who didn't go to college, but yet they have an interest in technology. And read their stories, and they're very inspiring. My experience, the success that my kids have achieved, Treehouse is it for me.
Well, Daniel, thank you for being on the show today and telling me all about West Virginia Coding Club and how Treehouse is enabling you and the kids to learn technology and set themselves up for new opportunities in the future. Thank you again for being on the show.
Well, thank you for allowing me the opportunity.
Yet another example of an incredible partnership between the West Virginia Coding Club and Treehouse, providing great benefits towards the tech industry for grade school kids. This concludes another episode in this series, The Tutelage of Treehouse, sponsored by our good friends at Treehouse. You can learn more about their opportunities for learning at teamtreehouse.com.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Sitting in traffic, squeezing into a parking spot, all to squeeze in getting tax help during your lunch break. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert who does your taxes for you, while you go about your day getting real-time notifications about their progress and the most money back guaranteed. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.